hey, I wanted to just pop in for a second and have a conversation about blue collar and white collar workers and kind of what is happening, like why I made some of the choices that I made and kind of like what's happening in terms of tech layoffs and in terms of blue worker poverty. So, across the board, a lot of people simply just don't know how like economics and generational wealth work and like what things are actually worth spending money on. I think that's like a really big problem in just a lot of communities. So people simply think that like the amount of money off top is going to make a difference in terms of your life chances. It can. It can if you make kind of the right choices, but for the most part, the reason that poor people stay poor is because they don't actually know how to be wealthy. Anyway, so let's talk about the tech layoffs for a second. So a lot of people were under the impression that like white collar workers were going to be exempt from automation. But the thing is, like, learning models are really good at information processing. Like, that's the whole thing. The problem with humanoid robots is they are lacking in terms of interacting with humans in the real world. This is why we, at the moment, cannot place humans into the real world. So when I started getting to meta learning, I had to learn a ton of shit about robotics because meta learning is used most primarily in building humanoid robots so that the humanoid robots can learn how to think. And so even my first internship was in hardware. Okay, so I had to learn all this shit about like hardware engineering, microprocessing chips, and just hardware. So then my one of my best friends is like a robotics engineer, so we would always talk about hardware and software. We have a whole podcast about this. It's called Data Bots, right, which is about data and robots. I'm the data person, she's the robot person, and we would just compare and contrast. That's what the whole podcast is about. Anyway, so going back, um why are white collar workers and engineers being fired at all the tech companies, and why is everyone cutting people who are like really high performers? So I think a lot of people don't understand just capitalism and economics, which is so fucking important. So it doesn't really matter how like you can be the most talented person, but your story matters. So like this is a part where you have to think about America, and I think people are not giving Americans enough credit. Like some Americans are really really dumb, but it's not like all Americans, and it's not even like most Americans. Like a lot of Americans are also really really smart. So there's no place in hell where like the people who are eating dirt in India are like smarter than the best engineers in America. Like that's just not a thing, right? Like there are some who are really really smart and are like on par with the people who are already here. But there's the people who are already here who already have a lot of privilege. Enter people like me. Like, I know that some of you guys think that you've read all the books and you took all the classes and you're just so smart and you know all the things. Yet, you have to realize that I am still half Black American, and Black Americans have gotten the lowest end. Social issues impact you on a real way financially, socioeconomically, in terms of class, jobs, housing, so many fucking things. It's not just like, oh, race doesn't matter, race doesn't matter. Race really does matter because racists are actually at the top of the pyramid in terms of making hiring decisions, investing in things, building, redlining, infrastructure, policy, government decisions, politics, education, really everything. Fucking everything. So, I mean, it's really difficult being on just kind of the lower end, of the spectrum. in terms of life chances. This is why I made another video about life chances. But let's move on. So I saw a couple of videos, which I will link in the description box, about the blue collar workers who are like dishwashers at Google and how they're making like $11 an hour. There's one, he's got like twins on the way. His wife is pregnant and he's a dishwasher and he's living in like a garage. Now, for some reason, I think for most of the people who are like immigrants coming over, this is the American dream, because like this is what they're going to do. This is what their life is going to look like. I mean, they're paying like $300 to live in a garage. They're probably going to go to school in a really awful neighborhood because they live in a trailer park right now. So that means they're going to be going to public schools in a very lower income neighborhood, okay, in a trailer park community around other poor people who are suffering from trauma, undiagnosed trauma, untreated trauma. It's not like they have therapists. Like, that's what I'm saying. People keep talking about mental health like it's all the same. And like my mental health is the same as someone else's mental health, but I have access to therapy. Like, I can go to therapy 3 times a week, literally. Can you? For every problem that I have, like every time someone sends me like a hateful message on YouTube, you do understand that like I screenshot it, then I take it to my therapist, and then we talk about it together and we process it in a healthy way for 2 hours. And then I feel better about it, and I make a YouTube video about it, and then I journal about it, and then I talk about it with my best friends. And now I even started emailing my mom and writing her postcards about it. So I have completely worked through the negative feelings that you spent 5 seconds on the internet being hateful about. And literally, you probably processed none of your trauma. Do you see how that works? It's like people, that's what I mean. It's like so funny when people keep like dumping their shit on me as though like it's going to help them. I'm not responding to dumbass comments on my videos any longer, but I do leave them there because I like to screenshot them and make examples of them, but I'm not commenting directly on them, and I'm not going to block them. If you're one of those spam accounts who continues to like spam me, keep doing that, because I can geotag where you're from, what part of the world you're from, and then we can critique your little village, make fun of your poor people. That's what I'm going to keep doing it. Because that's the only way you're going to learn. Like, you don't get my spot. Like, I've had to learn this a really hard way. Like, unfortunately, I was born with an American passport, and maybe you weren't. Fuck you. I'm sorry. If you're a hater, then be a hater. I don't know. There's nothing I can say. I can't help you. I can't give you my spot. You can't be me. What you can do, you can either support in a positive way, or you can even give constructive criticism. That's something that you could do. You can engage in a positive way, or you could just find somebody else to like watch that you actually support. But either way, it's probably not going to make you any funds. Like, I don't know. Some of the big creators from Latin America keep commenting on my new Instagram. I don't want to engage with them. Like, I don't know why people think that I'm Brazilian. I'm not from Brazil. I am not a Latin American person. I am not Zoe Saldana. We aren't even similar. I know maybe we have the same skin complexion. We aren't very similar at all. I think her husband is attractive. Maybe that's as far as I can go. Like, I would smash somebody who looks like him. I don't know. What do you want me to say? I'm Olivia. Like, you can watch how I move. I post shit on Instagram. You feel me? Like, I probably smash dudes who are more similar to D, which is why y'all see me chatting with D all the time, making fun of him. It's how my life goes. I don't know. Fuckboys are like my brand, unfortunately. I wish it wasn't that way, but it is. I should just tattoo like pussy fiend right on my forehead, because I don't even have another thing. Like, it's sad in so many ways. I just feel like I was born to attract pussy fiends, and I wish it was another way, but it isn't. So what else can I say? Yeah, I feel really bad. Those immigrants who are raising children in poverty, they just know so little about American culture. They know so little about quality, about culture. education. They have so much work to do on themselves, and they have so little to give to their children in terms of time and resources. It's just like, I mean, maybe it's positive that at least they will have offspring, but I think a lot of people are just really neglecting how awful it is to be poor in America. It isn't cool. Okay, it's nothing to promote. And I think that some people believe that it's better to be poor in America than to be dead in Tijuana or something. And I just don't know if that's the case, because I feel like the upward battle toward equity or toward life chances is as strenuous in both places. Like, you're not getting an easier ride here. Why? Because we already have poor people in America who are occupying the spots. And I think the immigrants believe that they get to just, that everybody's rich and that they get to be the new poor people. And at no point in time will any group ever fully displace poor white Americans. They are a class that will just never disappear. This is why we have to have conversations about race. There's poor black Americans, and I feel like we've detailed that experience in depth. Like 50 Cent has entire shows, BMF, all of his power shows. I think he's got another one coming out. Every TV show, movie about the slaves, like, we know what it's like. Tiana Taylor has a new movie that's about being a black American in New York. She's like a mother with a foster care system who steals the baby or something. It's just trauma porn. Like, we have so many stories about that shit. We know what it is. We actually aren't confused about it, right? The thing that we have a lot of content about white trash, but I think some of y'all just overlook it as though it's not what it is. Like, being white trash is the same as being poor and black. They're living the same experience. Which is why it's important to, like, hear more stories about 8 Mile and Eminem, who relates so heavily to the black experience, because poor people are poor people. And there's, like, if you've seen that YouTube channel, the Soft White Underbelly channel, it's not just Venice Beach. It's like, yeah, a lot of those people are living in, South Central LA, and they're on drugs, maybe they're prostitutes or something, but it isn't just there. It's everywhere. They're in New York. They're in the Bay Area. They're in Miami. They're in every fucking city. They're in Nashville. Every city. There's, like, poor white people who are really, 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 really down in their luck. Like, we just had a couple people come into, like, some of the restaurants in where I work. Just, like, white people who come in asking for free breakfast. And they live at this, like, homeless shelter that's sponsored by the church. Just white women who just come in. They're like, can I have free breakfast? And it's like, I've never heard of that. I've never seen anybody come into a restaurant and ask for free shit. Right. You can go to a pantry or a food bank for that. Like, right, a church. Like, I've definitely heard of people going to churches and being like, I'm hungry, I need food. I've never heard of anyone coming into a restaurant, right? Right. Like, a food bank is a charity organization, like a food pantry, where people have, like, made this vow to, like, try to give to the needy. Those people, like, want to help you. But restaurants are for-profit businesses that are trying to earn money. So, like, they don't have the capacity to, like, give you things. And the things that they do have the capacity to give, they're already donating that stuff to the food banks at the end of the day. So it would just make more sense to just go to the food bank and get the shit. Not even in a funny way, but I've made so many other videos about, well, not so many, but, like, at least two. I've made two other videos about food banks and pantries, which I guess I can put in the description box again. But I mean, at this point, I don't know. A Google search should help you. If I keep talking about the same shit over and over again, like, I did a whole research on this. I made, like, 17 videos where I was, like, unpacking poverty problems. I wasn't joking about that. But every time I keep saying, like, I'm, like, the only black person who was, like, not the only one. I mean, there were other black people in my, like, research program, but I don't know if they were actually making content about the things that they saw. Like, I feel like everybody branched out into their own personal, like, area of interest, but I don't know if they gave a shit about the other areas of interest. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's so strange to me. I don't fucking know. Things are so weird. I don't know.